These are the 13 best-selling fragrances currently on fragrancebuy.ca. Welcome to the best smelling channel on YouTube. My name is James, this is J-ROYL. I do videos on fragrances. I talk about mainly men's fragrances, but I like to be in touch with my feminine side sometimes too. My aim is 2 videos a week, so subscribe if you want more of this kind of stuff. If you like what you see so far, then that's great. If you're new to the idea of fragrance collecting, you're probably wondering, why would you have more than one? What's the point? And why would you spend that kind of money? Because I'm sure you go into the store and you'll see the prices of all these bottles of perfume and they're like $50, $100, sometimes $150 or way more. But as a frag head sharing his wealth of knowledge, potentially useless knowledge, there are so many places where you can get discounted fragrances that are completely legitimate and you just end up saving a ton of money and getting a pretty fun little collection of cologne. That's what I've done over the years, and I bought my fragrances in various different ways. I've paid full retail at Nordstrom and Saks on Fifth Avenue. I've even bought secondhand fragrances on Facebook from random people, just hoping that they send it after I pay them. But a large part of my fragrance collection comes from the gray market. So there are discount fragrance websites that just provide you with brand new stuff at very, very good costs. My favorite has always been fragrancebuy.ca. It's a Canadian-based store, and their prices have been stellar. What I did was I found out their best-selling fragrances on their site, and I wanted to share them with you just out of fun curiosity. And as we're going through this, let me know how many of these fragrances you have in your collection, because maybe you bought it from them, and maybe we're all just a victim to the hype of all these fragrances, because they all do have a bit of hype. 13 of the best selling, not necessarily smelling, fragrances on fragrancebuy.ca. That was clever, dude. Number 13 is by Dolce Gabbana, and it's the One Eau de Parfum. The first flanker of the one that truly mattered. The EDP strived to take the original, which was so well liked in the community and in real life, and make it a bit stronger. It didn't really change the scent all that much, like some EDP variations can do. And unfortunately, the performance wasn't really increased that much either. I ended up getting maybe an extra hour or 2 of performance, so it was still a very subtle fragrance, but it smells amazing, and its sales show that. It's one of those colognes that people just will recommend to anyone. Like, if you don't know what to get the one. It's the one, man, come on. But I will admit, I no longer own the one. It was so boring after a while, I stopped wearing it and I flipped it for a couple cheeseburgers. I made $50 off of it, okay? What do you want from me? What do you want from me? Still smells nice, but I'm really intrigued to try the new version of the one from 2020. So hopefully I'll be picking that up soon and I'll share my experiences with you. Number 12 is a niche fragrance, believe it or not. But it's like the most designery niche fragrance out there. No shade. Parfums de Marly Layton. Layton still remains my favorite Parfums de Marly fragrance, not because it smells basic, because it doesn't. What makes it designery is the fact that it's so likable. Niche fragrances can sometimes pull people in different directions, which is what we call polarizing. But other than a small minority that say it has a weird opening or it's too sweet, most people love Layton for good reason. Honestly, the fact that a niche fragrance has made this list of best-selling fragrances, that says a lot about how good it is. And I'm happy to see it do well, honestly. I feel good about it. Way to go, Layton. I don't know why I'm patting my own back. I didn't make that. At number 11, we have Davidoff Cool Water. Kind of one of those cliche fragrances that if you went to high school, let's say 10, 15 years ago, you probably would be smelling that in the hallway. It maybe has some nostalgia to it. It has some memories attached to it for a lot of people, which is why I ended up picking it up fairly recently as well. Objectively, it does smell really nice. It has a beautiful aquatic quality, slightly similar to Creed Green Irish Tweed, which could be part of the reason that so many people were buying it. You didn't want to pay Creed prices? Okay. Here's Davidoff Cool Water. There are definitely fragrances that are closer to GIT, but Cool Water is the one that we all kind of knew And then of course there's the people that just wore it themselves and wanted to relive that experience, which I totally get, and it's something I totally did when I bought Issey Miyake Pour Homme. One of my first fragrances, put that back on 15 years later, reliving my glory days of being super single and not successful with the ladies whatsoever. It's true. High school. At number 10 is a fairly recent release. I believe 2019 is when it came out, and it's Mont Blanc Explorer. Not much to be said about this fragrance. I talked about it in a video. It's a bit of an Aventus wannabe, same sort of scent profile, but not so much of that pineapple. Just capitalizing off of Aventus, just like everyone else. I guess a lot of people wanted to see how good it was, how close it was. It ended up being not super close, but objectively, for what it is, it's one of the better ones. I think it's priced about right. I would maybe get it if it was heavily discounted. Definitely not a retail thing for me. I did end up buying it, so I was one of those people that contributed to this data. Next up, we have a pretty cool fragrance, actually. It's Encre Noire à l'extrême, which is probably the best version of the Encre Noire series. The original was very inky, kind of wet vetiver fragrance. Sport was a little more accessible. À l'extrême just adds to that. It makes it very wearable, even though it has a lot of depth to it, yet it's so affordable. If you like vetiver, if you like things that are a little bit different, I really encourage this one. It's one that I personally don't own, but after seeing it on this list, it really made me want to revisit it and just buy it. Number 8 on this list is Versace Eros, a fragrance that still gets hyped to this day, even though it's a very repetitive fragrance for a lot of people. I remember talking to a few of my female friends and I was asking, oh, like what kind of fragrances do you like? Instead of saying one that she owned, she was like, oh, I love that green one, the Versace green one. My boyfriend wears it. And I was like, oh, Versace Eros. It's a very likable fragrance, kind of can be put alongside of the Le Mals of the world, where it's sweet, it's fun, it's a bit flirty, and it lasts a long time, which is a big plus as well, especially with designer fragrances, which can be underwhelming in the performance side of things. I rediscovered my enjoyment of Versace Eros when I no longer wore it just in the dead of winter. I started wearing it when the weather got a bit warmer, and that minty quality came out a bit more rather than that heavy-handed sweetness. In fact, one of my friends, when I used to work in Miami, he wore it every day, and it was very strong, but pleasant and inviting. So I can see it working in most conditions, to be honest. Eros Flame is a more recent flanker that came out, and it takes it even closer to that direction of being able to put it on in the warm weather. It's a little more versatile to my nose, but I can definitely see why Versace Eros is such a big seller. If you've never tried it and you enjoy sweeter fragrances, maybe check it out. Most people that hate it now are the ones that are just tired of smelling it. But for the first time nose, could be a good one. Number 7 on this list is the first fragrance I haven't smelt out of all of these. And it's by Mandarina Duck, a relatively affordable fragrance house that has been known to have high quality considering their lower prices. I always wanted to buy some of these fragrances, but when I would try and go on the website and pull the trigger and grab it, it'd be sold out. Like, it was kind of weird how its availability was so selective. So this fragrance is called Black Extreme. Not black, but Black Extreme. And apparently what I've read about it is along the lines of kind of a Versace Eros, but more so an Armani Code Profumo or a Chanel L'Homme Sport Eau Extreme. So definitely on the sweeter side, perhaps a bit of spiciness as well. Cool weather evening fragrance, but very likable and allegedly great performance. So that sounds like it'd be pretty cool. There will come a day where I'll get some ducks, some Mandarina ducks in my collection. And evidently a lot of you are adding it to your collection. So maybe I'm the one missing out. I don't know. Number 6 is the other fragrance that I haven't smelled yet on this list, but I love the house. I love this house. It's by Issey Miyake, and it's called Pulse of the Night. L'Eau d'Issey pour Homme by Miyake was one of my first real designer fragrances that I purchased for myself. And while I love their fresher offerings, lately, the darker offerings, the more heavy, the more cool weather friendly fragrances by that house have really intrigued me. The EDPs, the Noire, the Nights, the incense ones, all those darker bottle Issey Miyake fragrances have been really good. And apparently, this one's incredible. I wasn't even aware of it, to be honest. I feel like a bad fragrance YouTuber, but when I looked it up, its reviews are amazing. The notes are pretty cool too. It seems a bit resinous, and there's even like a minty leather feel to it. Really want to check it out. And these Issey Miyake fragrances, especially on Fragrance Buy, are really well priced. So one of these days, I'll let you know. And if you know this fragrance, let me know so I can learn more about it. Number 5 is a cheapie. It is a summer staple. I feel like everyone should have this in their collection. Nautica Voyage. What's great about Nautica Voyage is you can get it anywhere. It's gonna be cheap no matter where you get it, like at the drugstore, Fragrance Buy. It's fresh. It has this beautiful kind of tropical melon fruity quality to it. Some people say that if it doesn't have a metal cap, it doesn't have good performance, but I've always been very satisfied with the level of projection and longevity whenever I've worn Nautica Voyage. Considering it's cheap as heck and it's super, super easy to wear, it's really a staple. And not surprisingly, the 5th best-selling fragrance on this list. Now for our final 4 frags, 3 of them are from the same house. So if you can guess which house that is, comment below, because I'm sure most of you know. Number 4 is Club de Nuit Intense Man Eau de Parfum Limited Edition. This one shouldn't be a big surprise, but also kind of should be, because it's a cheapie that is no longer cheap. The original CDNIM was maybe $30 Canadian when it first dropped and it was first initially hyped. Then eventually people started complaining that the quality was decreasing, the performance was worse. So then Armaf came out and then they released the EDP limited edition, awesome version. And now everyone's saying, oh yeah, it's like the old one, it performs great. Whether or not that's true is not for me to say, but what I do know is it's twice the price. So I don't know if it's worth it, guys. It's no longer in cheapy territory, you know what I mean? There's better options out there. I did release a first impression video on this fragrance, which I'll leave in the cards and the description if you want to check that out after. But let's move on to our number 3 fragrance. This one was a big surprise to me, and it's really nice to see this one selling so well because it is one of my favorite fresh fragrances ever, even though I didn't mention it on this year's list, but it's still amazing. It's by Guerlain, and it's called L'Homme Idéal Cologne. It's a fresh flanker of the beautiful original sweet almond fragrance that is L'Homme Idéal. I really got like in my head for that one. I was like, oh my God. There have been other fresh flankers that have come out after it. Sport, which was, and then the cool one, which was minty, which is quite nice. It brings you citrus, and it's this beautiful combination of sweet and citrus. It's one of my favorite combinations of accords, similarly to Chanel Allure Homme Edition Blanche, that kind of feel to it. But the almond gives it that other little extra bit of intrigue that I really do enjoy. One of my favorite fragrances to wear to the gym, just a spray. I'm not gonna be too obnoxious, but it's fresh and zesty, but still sweet and comforting. So if someone's like, hey, you're wearing too much cologne. Ooh, you smell nice and fun. Okay, bye. They'll leave you alone. Not always, guys. Take it easy with the gym fragrances, okay? I can go on and on about this one, but just so you know, it's amazing. And if you can pick it up for cheap, which you can, you should do it. It's awesome. And it may not be around for very long, guys. These flankers, they just start disappearing. And gray market websites like Fragrance Buy, they still carry it. For now, we're down to the last 2 fragrances. So, we talked about an Armaf, we talked about a Guerlain. Which one is it? Are my final 2 fragrances Guerlains? No, obviously not. Dude, what are you thinking? The second best-selling fragrance on Fragrance Buy, currently, Club de Nuit Intense Man. Yes. The most popular kind of pinnacle of cheap Aventus clones. It's not necessarily where it once was, apparently. People are starting to realize that, hey, maybe Armaf has batch issues too. I still think it's an excellent value. I don't think it's the closest Aventus clone out there. I like it for its own reasons. It's still good, okay? It's fine, guys. And it's still selling a ton. So no matter where you are in your fragrance journey, in your collection, legacy, I think there's room for it in your collection. Unless if you have like 30 batches of Aventus, then just pass. Pass. So I'm sure many of you are suspecting that to be the number one, but it's not. So what is? The best selling fragrance currently on Fragrance Buy is also by Armaf. Spoilers. It's another clone of a Creed fragrance. I reviewed it. I did a first impression of it. It is the Millésime Impériale clone, Armaf Club de Nuit Milestone. It's not intense. It's just Club de Nuit Milestone. The solid gold bottle. I'm happy to seeing it selling quite well. I really enjoyed wearing it. Leslie kind of liked it. The fiance was like, yeah, it was okay. Not your best. But I think it's a good quality clone. It smells really nice right off the top, which is rare with these cheapies from Armaf especially. Performance was pretty good too. The dry down was meh, but I still think it's a good fragrance. I know why it's selling well. The one thing I will say, kind of like the limited edition Club de Nuit Intense Man, price is not incredible, which means the value isn't quite as good. Once you start getting to like $60, $70 territory, then you spend a couple bucks more, maybe like 20 bucks more, and get a Parfums Vintage, which is arguably, in my opinion, a better smelling and performing fragrance line, but it's more expensive. So the value becomes a bit blurry. That being said, it is without a doubt the best selling fragrance on Fragrance Buy. But those are the numbers. I didn't make them up, guys. These are the fragrances that you are buying. And me too. I'm surprised with how many of these I do own. I guess I'm quite basic and predictable, and we're all just a bunch of sheep that are slaves to the hype, but I wouldn't want it any other way. If you want to check out more about the best-selling fragrance, Club de Nuit Milestone, here it is. There's all kinds of viewage here for you. If you like this video, give me a like, please. If you didn't, no comment. You know what? You watched the video. I really appreciate that. See you on the next one.